All right, man. If it's not one technical difficulty after another, it's just nuts. I'm not sure if that played or not, but what the heck? It doesn't matter. Hey guys, welcome to the podcast. My name is Jeff Kaufman. I am today once again. I'm by myself. My partner Ken Rossix is indisposed on a what looks to be a beautiful European vacation. But my name is Jeff Kaufman with Sub2 Empire. Before we get started here, I would like to just go ahead and get my shameless plugs out of the way right off the bat. If you guys don't know who Sub2 Empire is, or if you are curious about what we do, we're just a couple of dudes out here doing creative deals. We love doing creative deals, and I've been doing them now, I guess, for about 8 years. Ken's been in the business for over 20 for sure. And if you want to know more about us, go check us out over at sub2empire.com. Got a lot of good stuff going on over there. We just recently released our land trust documents package, and quite honestly, it's we probably have it undervalued or underpriced, overvalued, underpriced. It's just it's a fantastic course that Ken put together, and I'm telling you, if you're not using land trust in your real estate investing business right now, but you're missing out. They're super flexible, great tools to have, great a lot of great. The coursework is excellent. Let's just put it that way. All right, I'm at a loss for words here. It's because of my guest here. You guys have seen this guy probably all over the place. I mean, he's been all kinds of interviews, all kinds of different podcasts. I have not had the pleasure of speaking with him live, and so we thought, what the heck? Let's give him a shout, and let's get him on the podcast. And so I want to welcome to the podcast Mr. Burton Alicando from PropStream. How you doing, man?
Well,
wait a minute.
How about yourself?
We were supposed to do that. We were supposed to get the clap in there. How you doing, man?
I'm doing very well. How about yourself?
Awesome. So, Burton, I don't know, man. You and I have never really done one of these things together. I've seen you all over the place, and I guess maybe let's go ahead and start. Maybe just tell us a little bit about yourself and your background, and maybe what you did prior to even this gig at PropStream.
That's a great question. Where does it all begin? No, I'm just a normal human being like most people. I don't really have like an amazing college accolade or anything like that. Like most people, when I got into the real estate data side of things, when it comes to real estate, I didn't know anything about real estate. I was one of those few, to be honest with you, that thought like you could only sell a house through an agent. And if you like did any other method, it was like scammy. It was like, this person's pretty suspect-y. But no, obviously over a period of time, you learn that there's just multiple ways to solve a person's problem. And that's where I come in. But yeah, prior to PropStream, I was always kind of that curious, human being, trying to, piece things together myself. I just love to kind of read in between lines. And so real estate data kind of just fills that curiosity for me. I personally joined PropStream in 2013, but prior to that, I was in the tech industry when it came into the video gaming era. So I was big in the video gaming scene for a little bit, worked with companies on that end, and then kind of evolved into something I wasn't really into. So here I am today. So I was blessed to join PropStream back in 2013, and I haven't looked back since. So now I'm out there traveling and educating people on how to read between the lines when it comes to real estate data.
Yeah, that's the fun part for me too. I mean, I really, I'm like you. I'm not. I'm a college dropout, is what I am, and I should probably have a doctorate by now, but I could never really. I would declare a major. I don't know, a couple times a year, I guess. I just never was my bag. I just never really got a lot out of it, and I think I was just too squirrely. But yeah, so real quickly, where are you from? I mean, I know where you're from because I've read through. I tell people every time this podcast runs, but we kind of do a little bit scripted thing, but we go way off we just kind of go off the cuff here. So,
Yeah.
Where you from? What's your family look like? What's your personal life look like?
Great question. So I was born in the Philippines, but I had moved to the United States way before I could even remember my first memory. So by the time I realized where I was at, I was already a citizen of the United States of America. My parents brought me here at a very young age. I've been blessed to have dual citizenship, so I can go back and forth when need
Sweet.
be. Obviously, I've grown up since. I'm in my 30s. I do have a lovely 11-year-old boy who just loves to do what I want to do. I mean, he goes off and tells his friends my dad's a streamer, and so I've been very blessed to be the cool dad on campus when it comes to my kid. But other than that, I'm located in Southern California. I've been here most of my life, and it hasn't been since as of recently that I've been blessed to be traveling with the brand logo. And so over the last 36 months, I've traveled across the US to share the information that I know about our product and about data. And so that's me. I'm the guy now that travels and shakes hands and tries to get you to see the value of our application. I never thought I'd do that, but
yeah, I tell you,
that's me.
Yeah, that's you got to be you're a special breed if you really like traveling. Traveling for work. I could never get used to it, man. I just could never.
Oh yeah, my body still can't get used to the time zone and jet lag, but
Yeah,
as much as it has its downs, it definitely has its ups as well.
Yeah.
I mean, again, I get to meet great people and hear their stories. And at the end of the day, I'm just blessed. I really can't deny it. I mean, what we do, because it is a community, we directly impact the community. Like, we help people. I do it through data. You guys are doing it through negotiations and strategies. And so I think together, we're able to help homeowners, solve their problems. And so
Yeah.
part of that is probably the reason that it keeps fueling my tank to keep doing it.
Excellent. Yeah, awesome. I mean, well, how did you even come about learning of prop? How did you make it to PropStream?
So, desperation, I suppose.
Yeah.
I was actually I lost my job prior to PropStream.
That seems to be, by the way, like that's the reason I'm in the real estate space. That's 100% the reason. Yeah.
That's me. So cliche. No. So my this was 2013. So start of the year, things weren't doing so well in my previous employer. So I started realizing it was in a downward climb, but I was kind of in a state of denial at that point, and I just figured I'd ride it out as long as I could. And oh, definitely. I wrote it out as long as I could, at least as long as they wanted me to ride. And so when I always like to say I got promoted to a customer because I'm still a gamer. So I went from, a worker to, hey, you got promoted. You're
That's
now
awesome.
a customer. You got to pay full price. So I got promoted to a customer, and it just talk about timing. At the time, my ex, the mother of my child, she was about 7 months pregnant, and so this is where the desperation kicked in. And so I was out of a job, and I just needed to find something. And shout outs to Craigslist, because if it wasn't for the Craigslist job section, I wouldn't be here today.
That is wild, man. That's wild.
So I want to give credit where credit's due. Shout outs to Craigslist. But when I went on there, I saw this ad for a job. It was a small software company that was in real estate, whatever that meant, and they were looking for someone. And here's the thing too. I was this close to not even filling out the application, and I'll tell you why. The requirement was that when you submitted your application, you needed to have a cover letter. So when you submitted your resume, it must be accompanied with a cover letter. And I didn't have one at the time. Now, granted, I'm a pretty good, decent writer. I could mock one up as soon as possible. You guys are lucky. You guys have Chat GPT. We didn't have that, right? We had our fingers GPT. So we literally had to, or I had to mock one up. But prior to that, I was literally on a fork in the road. I was like, you know what? Who is this company to tell me I need to create a cover letter? Like, you guys are in need of employees, and you need me to come up with the cover letter. But obviously, in my desperation, I did it, and I couldn't have been blessed. I ended up getting called the following week. They must have seen something during the interview, because they ended up offering me a position that Friday. And so, as they say, the rest is history. Here I am today. Now, the brand ambassador for the company.
That's awesome, man. That's really good. I mean, you definitely have a clarity in your voice, and you have maybe they saw the confidence, But
well, I'm happy they did, because I was nervous as heck during that interview.
Yeah.
I need this job.
You played it off really well, huh?
Yeah, I got a pregnant woman that needs me to get this job. So please see something in me. And man, the stars must have aligned that afternoon, because here we are today again. So
very cool story, man. That's very cool. So now I've been using you guys' software for I don't know, probably 6 or 7 years now. I know you very well. I know kind of the ins and outs of the software itself, but I can't imagine there's a lot of folks out there that don't, in this space anyway, that don't know what PropStream is. It'd be hard for me to imagine that isn't the case. So I guess with that in mind, I say with that in mind, let's focus on the folks who might not know. So tell us a little bit about what PropStream is, what it does, and how it benefits people I mean, honestly, I know agents that use PropStream before they use the MLS. Now, I mean, I use them together for sure. I mean, there's things about PropStream that I love that I can't fight on the MLS. And the other way around. So I kind of use them exclusively together. In fact, they're usually side by side. And if I weren't afraid of this podcast crashing right now, I'd probably have them up right now. To be honest with you, that's how much I use them. So yeah, if you can give us a little rundown about the platform itself and what it does and how it might benefit people in the real estate space.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you guys are familiar with streaming service for entertainment, like music and movies and TV shows. That's what we do. It's just for real estate, So what we did is we took you out of the county clerk's office, because back in the day, you had to physically go gather your records, right? You had to go get those pre-foreclosure documents and decipher through that, wicked format of whatever they decided at that time. That's our job. We go out there and we collect the data sets. And I say data sets because it's just more than one. We're not just pre-foreclosures. We have failed listings because we gather MLS data nationwide. We're aggressive with MLS data, hence the sub-2 community. I mean, this is important for you guys to know what their interest rates are, if it's an assumable loan, who the lenders are, when do they acquire it. So Absolutely. We make it our business to aggressively gather data that's scattered. I like to look at it this way. Real estate is you trying to figure out the pieces to the puzzle. That's all it is. A person's problem is it's this jigsaw puzzle that's just scattered everywhere. And that's why you do what you do. You're the professional. You're able to gather all the pieces and put it together and figure out what the best possible solution is to their situation, because no two situations are the same. And that's what we do. We go gather as many pieces to the puzzle for you and bring it to you in a format that's legible and easy to manipulate. Because not only are we providing you property information, we're also allowing you to manipulate that through several filters so that you can identify on or, well, I would be lying if I didn't say this, but most of our users are using it to find off-market motivated sellers and buyers as well. So that's PropStream. It's a streaming service for real estate data. You're going to use it to identify on or off market leads or to analyze properties and get more information out of it.
Right. Yeah. As I said, I've been using it for quite a while now. And, I'll go through these periods where I just go out and I want to try some other form of, I do a lot of list building, ton of list building. And I'll say, I'll go out and I want to try these other services for lists. But there's always some list. It seems like there's always some list that I can only get from PropStream. There's always, I don't particularly, I'll just be square with you. I don't particularly like getting my pre-foreclosures from PropStream because I have another method. But there'd be certain lists that, particularly as creative guys, like we love the creative financing side of the coin. And there's just something about going out and trying to like one of the list builders that I use. You have to call them. They don't do any kind of order. Now you can see what they have online, but you have to call them. But trying to convey to them what you're looking for as a creative finance person, like I am focused on buying deals that are either seller finance. I own 45 doors right now. I have bank financing in one of those doors, right? So I have bank financing on one single family property. The rest of it is all seller finance, subject to some form of creative something. And it's very hard to convey over the phone to these people, like exactly what I'm looking for. And because, kind of in the creative world, there's not a lot of, it's a little bit mysterious, sort of. Although I would tell you, there's a lot of folks out there that have really helped push the creative side along. So, I really appreciate that about PropStream. I can just go in and I can build my list, and I can tweak those lists just a little bit. I mean, it's just one little toggle or one little switch, one little lever that I have to push, and all of a sudden I have a whole list of prospects that I can start marketing to. So that I do appreciate about PropStream a lot. My next question for you is, I don't know how technical we want to get on this call, but one thing I love about PropStream is the list automator. I think it's probably one of the most robust. Well, there is no other list automator that I know of. PropStream, I think, is the only one. So can you tell us? Yeah. I mean, there's other list management tools out there, plenty of them, and there's some of them we even recommend. But I don't think there's anything like List Automator. So can you go over a little bit about List Automator and what its function is and actually how it works?
Yeah, so List Automator is an add-on feature on top of your base subscription, and it is a package deal. So where do I begin? But let's talk about the two main, I think, functions of List Automator that people are very aware of. The first one is the automation of your lists. So obviously we've been in the business since 2006. We're now a Stewart-owned company, but we understand our consumers. And one of the things we were realizing as a company is that someone would have their said filters, like you said, when it comes to creative seller financing, you guys have your specific filters. The trick with that is that when do you run that search again? Right. And so what we were discovering is our users would either log in every day, at the start of the week, once a month, and then run their searcher all to just find if 100 turned into 102, because that indicates there's some new properties there. And so we got to work. And our task was, can we identify the new records on their behalf? And apparently the answer was yes, List Automator. But we got bored in the discovery of that. And the other idea that we had was, well, not only can we identify new properties for them, can we also maybe identify the properties that no longer fit their criteria as well? So List Automator, what I love about it is it takes your marketing list and it does two important things. One, it will identify any new records that are being updated in our platform that identify to your filters. And if it does match your filter, you'll get an email and it'll automatically move that record into your list. That's going to save you time and notify you when you need to log in again. So, right, that's time saving because you don't have to log in every day. That email will tell you when to do it. And then when you do log in, the list is the new record's already in your list. But at the same time, it's going to run the filter through your list every single day. And if a property no longer meets your criteria, the reverse will happen. You're going to get an email notifying you that a property no longer fits your criteria. For example, if you ask for off market and we see it's now listed with an agent, you're getting an email. And so when you get that email, it's an indicator. It says, hey, log in and remove this property, or better yet, we can do it for you automatically, hence List Automator. So List Automator, what I love about it is it, if used correctly, and that's the key word, if used correctly, it can save you time because it will email you and identify new records and move them for you, and money because it's going to email you and identify outdated records and move them out of your list. So you don't call them or send them another postcard. And that's the main function of List Automator. The cherry on top, because there's a few other things with it, but the cherry, I would say the next big cherry on top is our import feature that comes with it. A lot of people will ask us, hey, I got this list from elsewhere. The only problem is it doesn't have mortgage data, or it doesn't show me how many other properties the owner has. And you guys have that information, but I have to search one at a time. With List Automator, you can do a mass import. You can import an external list into PropStream and then append our data. So that way, once you bring in that list from whoever you got it from, again, it's all pieces of the puzzle. And I'll admit, we don't have everything at times, right? For example, you might be best friends with a divorce attorney and you might get that list before anybody else does.
Yeah.
That's okay. Bring it into PropStream, import it through List Automator. We can show you how many of those divorce records have mortgages or are listed or just failed on the market recently. And then you take it from there. So thank you for bringing that up. But that's List Automator. It will automate your search filters for you and identify new and old records. And then you have the import feature.
Yeah, I think with List Automator, I don't even check the email. I don't even have the emails turned on. I don't want to be notified because I've systematized it where if I have a list in there that I know that I'm going to be marketing to, excuse me, I just go in once per month and I know that list is updated. I know it right away. So I don't need to be notified. If I go on the 15th of every month, that list I know is up to date, it's current, and I just kind of turn it into a little bit of a robotic exercise. I just go in and do it. It's just on the list, go out and do it. So
that's export it and then upload it to your system. Yeah, I love that.
Very, very cool. Yeah, it's really just a fantastic feature. So I don't know. Do you happen to have PropStream up right now?
When do I never have it up? Yes, the answer is yes. I always have it up in front of me.
Would you like to maybe, I don't know, are there any maybe little, this is one of those off the cuff moments. Are those any little tips and tricks? Like, is there anything that you see out there maybe in the field that a lot of people are missing out on? Like, is there anything that you can think of that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Would you mind bringing up props? Can I put you under a little pressure here? And
no, hey, putting me under pressure is not a bad thing. It's probably a good thing for everybody. So here's PropStream.
Let me share the screen. There we go.
This is what you guys will see when you first log in. And to answer your question, is there something out there that people are just probably not honed in on or missing out? And I think so. And I think that there's a lot. to begin with. There's not just one thing, but if I could just pick one thing that I think it should be highlighted in today's conversation, it's just that it's not always black and white. There's more to than what you think there is. And so one of my biggest philosophies when it comes to lead generation is that a lead is not always going to be on a list. Let me explain what I mean by that. Jeff, give me a city, if you don't mind, since you're going to put me on the spot.
Let's do Sacramento.
Okay, so let's go to Sacramento, okay? And so the typical investor, agent, lender who's, doing lead generation, this is what they'll normally do. They'll go into a market, in this case, Sacramento, and then, we're going to show you all the addresses that are going through a situation. And so there's like 250,000 addresses going through some sort of scenario. And you could see a few categories above the map. But most of our users will use our search filter. And what's cool about our search filter is you have over 120 filter options and 19 categories to start with. And this is where I think most people will, where I can determine where they're at in terms of what I call the evolution of real estate. Okay. And here's what I mean by that. I'm a firm believer there's two ways to search for leads in today's world. The first way to approach identifying leads is what I call the traditional method. And what I mean by that is you start with a list, because that mimics exactly what everyone was doing back in the day, right? They would go to a source, in this case, the county, and they would grab a list of some sort. Like, for example, I can go to Sacramento and grab all the properties that are delinquent on their taxes. And there are 13,000 registered addresses that are delinquent on the property. Again, I could have gone to the county and grabbed that. So most people are used to that behavior, and they'll come to PropStream and they'll mimic it. So they'll go in here, they'll select a list, and then after selecting a list, they'll use our additional filters to then add any additional preferences. For example, most of our users want it off market, so they'll go to our MLS filters, make sure the records are off market. Then they'll apply their equity. And to me, equity is really cool because it really indicates what a person, in my opinion, knows. So like if you're a fix and flipper and that's all you do, you need equity. Mm-hmm. But if you're like Jeff over here who knows, subject twos and creative seller financing and lease options and all this other cool creative stuff, then he doesn't need to even apply equity, because high, low, negative, Jeff has it covered, right? And that's what I love about equity. But I always like to remind people, you need to know what you know. And then once you know what your strategies are, let's say you are just a fix and flipper, make sure you apply equity so you don't, waste time calling people with negative equity or low equity. So that's going to save you time there. And then the final thing most people will do is tell us what type of property they want. They'll come in here and say, hey, I don't need those commercial buildings like this planned unit development building. I just want residential single family properties that are owned by an individual. And so this is what I would call the traditional approach. It all started with a list. Find me a tax delinquent property that's off market with the equity I need. This is the type of property I'm looking for and the owners I need on my list. Then they're going to hit close, save that list, and then rinse, recycle, repeat. As a matter of fact, with PropStream, you don't even have to hit the reset button. You could just choose a different list. You could say, okay, well, now that I've saved delinquencies, show me all the pre-foreclosures and let me save those. Show me all the tax liens, let me save those. So the concept is just repeated over and over. And again, this to me is where there's been an evolution. And so my biggest philosophy I'd like to share with you guys is that a lead is not always going to be on a list. For example, Jeff, did you have something to say?
Well, I'm like, I have a million things to say because you just taught me something. I've been using this for 6 years now, probably a little bit over 6 years. I didn't know I could just change the quick list and it would just automatically keep my pre-selected or my
filters.
Keep my filters. Yeah, I did not. I have been rebuilding these every single time. Like I have been starting from scratch every single time. That is amazing to me.
I don't mean to laugh at your expense, but you know what? I will say you're not the only one. So
Did not know
rest
that.
assured,
I did not know that.
you're not in that boat alone.
Also,
But
one other thing that was one of my you hit on very early, a little bit earlier when you talked about the equity portion. That's actually one of my favorite filters that you guys offer because obviously someone like us, we generally don't. I mean, equity is important, but it's not for a creative guy. It's not top of the list. It's just not.
no, yeah,
It's all about cash flow and so yeah, the like my estimated equity percentage, my minimum. Well, let's just start at my max. My max percentage, if I'm looking for creative deals, I'm going to set that at 10% is my max. That's how quote unimportant. I don't want to say it's not important, but quote unimportant that equity actually is to creative folks. So, but it's just a great little lever to pull for those of you out there who maybe you want to focus on creative deals. That's one little. Now, I wouldn't recommend. I wouldn't recommend doing that if you don't really know how to structure those deals. But it's there for that reason. That's exactly why they have it in here. So absolutely. I just wanted to mention those things. Yep, go ahead.
Oh, no problem. And that's actually, again, a very important bring up because people forget sometimes, that they only know a certain strategy that doesn't require a certain level of equity. And just simply missing this filter could be the reason why your list went from 3,000 to 1,500.
Yeah.
You're going to end up calling 1,500 properties you don't need or sending 1,500 postcards you don't need. So it's very imperative that, when you guys are building your list, that's, to me, in my opinion, one of the things that you shouldn't forget about when applying.
Sure.
Unless, again, you're a jack of all trades and you know all the strategies, that you can completely ignore this conversation that we're having.
Well, that's one thing when you pulled that, when you just drop down to the tax delinquencies. I mean, it's like, are you going to mail 13,000 of those and cross your fingers? So it really does help to be able to filter those down. And by the way, not just if you are into direct mail and that's your chosen, if that's how you're going to reach out, 13,000, you're talking 7-8 touches later. I mean, that is quite an expensive campaign. And that's just one type of, type of, I would say it was a form of, I say distress. Is that the right word I'm looking for?
Yeah. I would say distress.
Yeah.
You want to be PC about it, financially challenged.
Financially challenged. Thank you very much. Thank you. Hey, on that list there, while you're there, some folks, we get questions about this. Some folks don't know what zombie properties are. Can you explain what zombie properties are?
Yeah, it's been an inside terminology, something when I first started, heard about too. But it's a pre-foreclosure combined with postal service data. So it's pre-foreclosures that are no longer answering their mail. So pre-foreclosure and vacant.
Gotcha. Okay.
So
all right. Well, yeah, I actually had a different idea about what it was, but yeah, but that makes sense. All right.
Nothing to do with the human body.
Right.
But yeah. So lead generation, as I mentioned. So that first approach, again, is the traditional approach where you go to a market and then you pull a list. And this is a common behavior. I mean, I would say everybody starts their lead generation this way. The trick is evolving from that behavior. I'm not saying you should ditch the behavior, just there's more to it than just that. And the reason I say that is because then what ends up happening, what precedes this behavior is then questions like, well, how fast are you pulling your list? Because I need to get it as fast as humanly possible before the next person. And then now there's this hunt of trying to get a list before the next person. And so we end up going from, one, application to the next. And that's okay. I mean, I'm not telling you not to do that. But one thing to consider is you might be the first person to get the record. The homeowner is probably not on your schedule, though. And this is very common. I see this all the time. I see companies dump thousands of dollars. Like Jeff said, 7 touches, right? So they'll pull the list day one. They'll probably have somebody camping at the county, grabbing the list manually, right? That's how like aggressive some of these companies are. And then they'll market to this address every week for the next 6 months. That's a lot of money. And then guess what? They never get the deal because it's the person who called a week before the auction date. They called on a random Tuesday and they got the contract signed. That's something people forget. It's just because you're first doesn't mean the homeowner is ready. And this is where, again, creativity with marketing, this is where follow-up becomes very, very important. But just because you're first doesn't necessarily guarantee. And this is where, again, you also have to understand that list that you just pulled, 500 people have also pulled that for 500 other reasons, right? So the same tax delinquency that we pulled is being called by investors. They're being called by credit repair companies. They're being called by agents. They're being called by the banks. They're being called by other banks. They're being called by so forth and so forth. So if you think you're the only person calling this person on this tax delinquency list, I hate to break it to you. That's
such a solid. I love that because, I mean, we preach that a lot. That's why. Just as you say, starting with the list, it's more than just pulling a list. It's more about getting creative with your marketing. And so I guess we'll come back to this. I want to bring you back on here. What are what would be some of the trends that you're seeing right now as far as lead outreach? Like what are we seeing out there in the marketplace that could potentially be, I don't know, different? What's being, are we shaking things up out there with some other form of, I mean, we're still cold calling. Like, what are you seeing out there?
Same method of marketing is happening. Again, it's evolved since, I would say, 2015 when, ringless voicemail started making face and text marketing started making way. And then, cold calling, it just evolved into dialers now that are, dialing out 15 numbers at a given moment. And first one to pick up, that's the conversation that we're having. So those marketing outlets remain the same. I think they're just slightly evolved. That's where, again, the text messaging and email marketing, and then now we have like PPC as well, right? So outbound marketing will always be there. That's going to remain the same, in my opinion. You might see just some newer elements to that, depending on how technology evolves. But what I'm also seeing the evolution of is the filtering. I think that I'm starting to see people understand that I got to get ahead of the competition, and that means being creative in how I identify motivated sellers in markets, either locally or in different markets. And so that's what I'm seeing, because now everyone has access to what you guys have access to, right? I will say, hands to I give kudos to the investors for being the first ones to think outside of the box, identify ways to get to homeowners before the next person. But the cat's out of the bag. If you think an agent's not using our application to find off-market properties to let them know that they could list their properties versus take a cash offer or do whatever else, I hate to break it to you, they're doing outbound marketing. So what I'm seeing is the pool got a lot more populated. And now it's a matter of, can I think creativity? Can I think outside of the box? Can I do something differently that most of us are not doing? And I think that's where the shift is happening right now.
Yeah. I'm seeing, I mean, I'm sure everyone is, but just a ton of, a ton of AI coming into the arena. And I tell you, as much as we might not like having to learn and adapt and adopt new things, I don't see this going away at all. I mean, I think this is, going to handle a large portion of our marketing.
I agree. I think AI and marketing is definitely
Yeah.
there. I
Yeah.
think that's going to be, postcards with AI, text messaging with AI,
100%.
cold
You,
calling with AI, definitely. We're
you
even
tone.
seeing it in the data world. But I smirk when I hear AI and data a little bit, especially with lead generation. People, ask me, why? Like, why do you smirk a little bit? Well, I look, this is how I see it, and this is my opinion. It doesn't. It's not PropStream's opinion. This is my opinion. So I want to throw that disclaimer out there. Um, when an AI builds your list for you, guess what happens? It's building the same list for everybody else in the same market that you're in. So we go back to square one where you're just calling the same list 5 other people are calling. So
Yeah.
so I love AI. I think AI and real estate has a relationship that's going to ever evolve, but there are certain aspects in real estate that I just don't think AI can figure out just yet. And so I want to be hesitant about my words. I'm not saying that it's not. Just feel like right now it's still in certain aspects of real estate primitive, but we'll see where that evolves.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm feeling like there's a happy medium there somewhere.
Yeah, a hundred
Combining,
percent.
combining. If you really, if we're talking about list building, maybe if we're using PropStream to build a list, there's some creative way, and we actually work on it a little bit now. We're working on it a little bit now, but there's a creative way to get folks hooked up with some of your AI generated tools. And I don't know, it's an interesting world we're living in right now, man.
Yeah.
It's crazy what's going on, and it just seems like every other week it's doubling. Like the I just see so many new ideas coming out, and I'm following some people that are just. I thought I was a creative guy, but these guys are just blowing my mind. It's crazy.
Oh,
So
yeah.
it's a constant game of cat and mouse.
Especially in the marketing aspect of
Yeah,
it, and when
yeah,
it
for
comes to
sure.
AI in our field, that's going to get really tricky.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah,
going to move quick.
yeah, for sure. I just it's wild, man. It's wild what's going on, and I'm excited about it. I think there's much more opportunity, but um, yeah. So I don't know where we go from here, but I am looking forward to really start learning much more about this AI. I resist a lot of new things because I still think like, if we go out and build a list in PropStream, right, and and I see the masses moving towards, like it happened with cold calling. We saw that with cold calling. The
Yeah.
masses just moved into cold calling. Now we've got um, the A2P, the 10DLC stuff, all the TCPA regulations coming out, and man, I'll tell you, that is such a saturated strategy. It's just like I'm actually kind of glad those regulations came out. To be honest with you, not just because I received those calls, but just because it's like it's so. It's great that it generated jobs and things like that. But man, for me, cold calling, that is not how I want to introduce myself to a seller. It's
Yeah.
just not the way that I prefer to do that. To me, that's like stepping off on the wrong foot. That's not to say that other folks, and maybe it's that I don't handle it correctly. Maybe I'm just not the right guy to reach out and make that call. But other people can handle it a lot better than I can. But something like getting back to like building, like if I go in and PropStream build a list, everybody moves in that direction, but they leave this really great marketing strategy that's been out there for you know 7,500 years, maybe longer, in direct mail.
Yeah.
Direct mail is just, I mean, I talk about this all the time, but there is one individual in my market that I know by name. I've never met him. I should meet him because I've been doing this for a while. He's been doing this for a while. But there's one individual in my market that if I ever got in trouble with any of my rental properties or anything like that, and I had to become a motivated seller, this is the guy I'd call because he's doing it right. He's tagging me every single month or every other month. And it's just a simple, stupid little postcard. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't have one handy here, but I don't even need his postcards anymore. I know exactly who I'm going to call. So, but yeah, so interesting stuff that's going on.
Yeah.
So, I
100%.
totally lost track of where we were at. See, this is how it goes. I get squirrely.
Oh
I get
no, it
off.
was the lead generation part, and just thinking outside of the box. And I think where I was going to end it off was just showing you guys a little cool gem, and just hopefully sparking your creative mind.
Do you want to get back into PropStream, or is there anything else that you'd
Yeah,
like
you know
to?
what? Let me show something real
Okay.
quick, and then this is to me again to end my point. As I was mentioning, most people will go in a market and choose a list and create that. And this is again why I said what I said. AI is going to end up doing the same thing. It's going to go into a market, and it's probably going to grab a list and then stack a few filters it believes you should call. Right. So here's why I love what we do. We did the hard part of making all the data communicate. This is why when you click on a certain property, you're able to see the mortgage data on one page. You're able to see the comps. You're able to see demographics. You're able to see the MLS data all on one page, because that was our job, was to go get that scattered data and put it together. And the reason that's important is because, as I mentioned earlier, a lead is not always going to be on a list. This is what people are forgetting. If you're so stuck on, I need to pull a list, you're missing out on millions of Americans out there that are not on a list that want to sell. Like, here's an example. Interest rates, they're on the topic right now. Literally, I just saw an article today that the Feds are potentially going to drop the rate again. And guess what? That's because I'm in this industry. I am so honed in on real estate news, just like you are. But do you know how many millions of Americans don't know what we know? You know how many millions of Americans that don't know where the interest rate is right
Oh,
now, where
yeah,
it sits?
probably
So, for
probably the
example,
majority.
I could use that to my advantage. I could say, you know what? While everybody in Sacramento is calling a list right now, show me all the owner occupied properties that are owned by an individual for maybe 10 years or more, right? So I can apply that individual 10 years of ownership. And then mortgage information, because those are filters that we have. And guess what? Interest rates. Millions of Americans don't know where they're at. So guess what I want? I want everyone with one interest rate or one mortgage with an interest rate that's at least 7% or higher. So while you guys are calling a list, I'm calling everyone that has an interest rate of 7% or higher and letting them know rates have dropped, and I can run a quick comp on their property to see what it's valued at. And if they need that, just give me a quick call.
Love it.
Should I wait for them to default? Should I wait for them to file bankruptcy? No. And this is what I mean by, there's a lot of people in the pool now. And in order to get ahead, we got to start thinking outside of the box. Because if you think you're the first person calling that tax delinquency list, you're nuts. And so to be able to go in here and say, hey, I need someone with a high interest rate, or hey, I need that family that's in a one bathroom property for 10 years, because sharing one bathroom for 10 years, man, that must be tough. Or that senior owner who has 15 properties, because we have that filter in our ownership info. Because what are you going to do with 15 properties? Do you want cash for everything? Most of them are going to say, no, I don't want to take a quick cash offer in my 15 properties. But maybe, because you guys know creative seller financing, maybe they'll do something long-term with their 15 properties. So to be able to identify someone who has just 15 properties in the market, who's not on a list, this is what I mean by the evolution of real estate. It's going to keep happening. And again, sometimes AI is not going to identify what you hear. So if tomorrow you wake up and you see the news, any house that was built in 1972 has bad foundation, you should be calling every property built in 1972.
Yeah.
That's being creative, and that's where you guys got to remember that Alita is not always going to be on a list. And if you understand that, that's where you can take it to wherever you like. Sky becomes the limit, because the pendulum will always swing when it comes to homeowner situations and things that are happening that affects real estate. And if you can see that our filters could potentially get you to that, then you're going to be ahead of the competition.
Right. Yeah. We encourage, especially all of our students, we encourage everyone to, I'll give you a little bit of a, something that kind of irks me a little bit. Excuse me. And that is, people call up they either call up or they'll go to one of the online list providers or what have you, If you're going to be building lists, our advice to all of our students is you need to be building that list yourself, because just like you stated earlier, you're going to have that same list is going to be sent out. I mean, it's just going to be bombarded by everyone. So you just need to be building your list. And I only bring that up because I think that, like what you're saying here, and you're demonstrating, is that if you go through these individual filters one by one, it will get the creative juices flowing, and it will help you start to think like, and honestly, a lot of marketing is, I mean, we test marketing for a reason, because a lot of it, there's no cut and dry answer. You have to test your marketing out. So I guess what I'm trying to say, if I can bring that all together, because I sound like a blubbering idiot, but if you go through these lists and if you go through each one of those filters, you can actually think of different creative things that a lot of other people just are not thinking of. And you just demonstrated a couple of really good points. I mean, with your interest rate thing. Now, I go the other way. I will filter for one mortgage, and I'll filter for 3 to 5% interest rate.
Right.
That's
and
it.
We also have the mortgage type, so we can make sure we select assumable mortgages. And then we also have we also have the interest rate type too, so we can make sure that the interest rate is also a fixed rate if you need to. So and I love where your mind is at, and that's again why we did what we did. Is we saw it early. We saw that people were calling the same leads, and so if we can connect the data together, then that gives the user the ability to, for lack of a better word, it becomes a buffet, right? You can now put whatever you want on your plate the way you want to put it on your plate, versus what we were doing, which is the real estate, I call fast food approach, where it's like, hey, pick a list and then move on. That I think is now evolving to where, hey, if you can think of it and it's a potential reason to sell a house, that's possibly a filter that you can do in PropStream.
Man, I'd love to sit in that room where you guys are coming up with all these ideas for these filters. I would love to sit in that room. That would be I think it'd be
tons. And I hear about it all the time. There's so many different unique ways to identify, again, that little smoking gun that sometimes people overlook, and then they don't realize that little data set is an indicator of something much larger.
100%. I mean, it can help you in so many ways. Just that one, that's like one particular little lever. It could be, if you're budget minded, if that one little lever might be that, that's going to bring your budget into, something that's more manageable. But also just the hyper focused targeting. I think it's essential, particularly for what we do for creative stuff. But I mean, I think everyone needs to get in, and you definitely have to be building your own list. If you're going to build lists, if you're not going to do Google ads or what have you, you definitely need to be building your own lists, and stop with these mass. We've got one. I was going to bring this up earlier, but we've got a mail house that I deal with, or I used to deal with, not so much anymore. But it's like they have lists. I just wouldn't recommend buying your list from a mail house. I just wouldn't. I just don't think it's the best place to do that. But
and to your point, again, it's because the behavior is there. If you we're all getting the data from some source, right? Mm-hmm. That's a reality. Mm-hmm. And look, I'm not saying it doesn't work. If you pull the list, you're probably going to get a call versus the 400 other people I call. As a matter of fact, on that topic, here's just, I've been with PropStream for a while. Here's just the way I look at it, right? When you're pulling a list that's very, very popular, like a pre-foreclosure list, right? Again, hammered, man. Let's take a step back. How many other people are slamming that list with marketing, right? So here's what I've come to identify, and this is just the way I look at it. When you're when you're dealing, actually, can I show something on my screen?
Absolutely.
Because
Absolutely.
this is a graphic I use to explain like when you're approaching a list. I call this my motivation chart, and this is something I love showing when I discuss lists and building your own creative list. So you got to remember, you're not calling a list, you're calling a homeowner. Okay. And so that homeowner, in my opinion, is in one of three, stages of home ownership. They're either good, which is leave me alone, you're not getting a discount because I'm good, I still want to live here, right? Or I still want this property. Or they're in what I call the uh-oh stage. And these are like bankruptcies and divorces and failed listings, right? So that's, to me, uh-oh, something's happening, what are you going to do next, right? And then there's the need help category. Like, hey, I'm in pre-foreclosure, or I have an auction and my house is going to get auctioned off in 30 days, right? That's what I call the need help. Like, this is the final stop for homeowners. After that, there's nothing, right? Bank owns your property now. So as a person goes from good to uh-oh to I need help, that's where their motivation to sell increases. And so this is why a lot of people like pre-foreclosures. Because you're going to get big discounts. Beggars can't be choosers at this point, and faster closing because you got to be the auction time. So again, most deals are going to get closed within like 30, 40 days. But it's very competitive. Like when someone goes in pre-foreclosure, you've got all these investors calling that list, all these credit repair companies calling that list, agents calling that list. So here's my point. If you're going to be in this category, here's something to be mindful of, okay? Everyone's marketing to the same lead. So here's what ends up happening. You have to separate yourself from all of those postcards that are being sent out. And this is where either you start increasing your marketing money because I need to now differentiate myself, right? So my postcards have to be nicer than the next person or brighter than the next person. So I got to tweak up my marketing money. Or what always beats money, you know what always beats money? Creativity. Right? Nothing is ever going to beat creativity, right? You could dump millions of money and creativity will always win. Here's an example of that. I had a lovely lady, I won't mention her name, but she was in pre-foreclosures and she knew it was very competitive and she knew postcards were being sent out. So no, you know what she did? Handwritten letters. Here's the catch. She sprayed them with perfume and sent them out. And she ended up getting responses because of the creativity in her marketing. So
Yeah, get
those
out of
people
here.
were dumping thousands of
That's wild.
dollars. She was doing just the opposite, right?
That's
So again,
genius.
if you don't have the money, if you don't have the creativity, then this is why I was mentioning, got to think outside of the box then. What's not on a list that no one's calling? That's what you should probably put in your filters and
Right.
go after those. Just understand they're not in the need help category. They might be in the uh-oh or prior to that. And that's why I have these arrows here. There's going to be multiple follow-ups when you're dealing with the uh-oh category or even prior to that, like right here in that uptick, like the high interest rates that we showed you earlier. I would call that an uptick because they're not in bankruptcy yet. They're not delinquent yet, right? But having a high interest rate could be an indication of something happening. Right. So that first indicator, that first phone call, stop calling me. Right? And this is why they also say the money is in the follow-up. So need help. You might get a deal in the first phone call, but you got to get that answer. How do we get that? Marketing or creativity? For the uh-oh, you don't need money. You don't need creativity. You just need time. Just give it time.
That's
Do
right.
multiple follow-ups.
I do think you're missing one little section here. Maybe divide this up into fours because right before that needs help thing, there always seems to be this head in the sand kind of transition period.
Oh,
It's also
the denial period. Absolutely.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. I'll tell you, if you could time that, if you could somehow predict that when that's going to happen on an individual basis, you'd be a millionaire overnight. I mean,
Oh,
but yeah,
100%. You got it there.
yeah,
But that's again what I like to remind people is that there is no wrong or right lists. It's just that you have to understand each one of them has a level of where they're at in terms of how many people are trying to call them and the visual that address is out there, how exposed it is out there to the public. And so
I totally love it. Yeah, I think that's probably, I know there's plenty of people doing creative deals out there. It's fine. But, in a lot of the places where I speak. In fact, I'm speaking next week over here in Illinois, and I can guarantee you what's going to happen is I always ask the crowd. I always poll the crowd. Hey, how many of you? And this is the very first thing I say. How many of you have ever done a subject to deal? And you'll get the folks that have, they'll raise their hands, and I'll say, how many of you that have done a subject to deal have actually sourced that deal yourself through your own marketing? And literally, 75 to 80% of the hands go down. And so I just have everybody just look around at the crowd. I mean, there is so much opportunity. And I think it all starts with what you're talking about. It is finding these little levers, these small little tweaks. There's nothing that's going to smack you in the face. It's just these small little tweaks and these small little changes that you can make. If you're building lists, that even when you talk about creativity, the creativity in your marketing, your message, we make it a point. A lot of people will say, if we're sending out direct mail, for example, a lot of people will say, just send out a postcard, send out a plain white postcard. And that's fine if you're sending out 10,000 of those. That's great. But if I'm sending out to a list that's time sensitive on something like pre-foreclosure, that's a very time sensitive, a sort of distress, it's going to come to a point. So we make sure that in every single piece of direct mail that we actually address the problem. It's not some cookie cutter message. We address the problem in the message. We give them a very clear call to action. I hear some cats fighting back there.
Oh, that's my little kitty. She's starting to get upset now.
She
wants my attention.
That's right. Well, it's not going to be that much longer, but yeah, I love the whole. I love marketing, first of all, but I love the whole concept of what you're talking about. Like, and there's not too many people here. You're representing PropStream, and you're telling us that, it's not all on the list. Like, I mean, this is your business. I mean, it's so true. We love integrity, and we love openness about that type of, just that type of attitude. So,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, man. Great tool.
Thank you,
I said, it's normally side by side there with the MLS, and there's just some data that the MLS provides that nobody outside the MLS is going to be able to try. Not even your competitors. So yeah, man, great tool. We really, really love it. I wish we could have dug a little bit deeper into the list automator, because I just love that tool.
I'm always down to come back. So if you guys have the time slot, I'd love to do a whole session on that, because you're right. I think that product itself deserves its own focus of attention, but it is, and I might be biased here, but I think it does evolve the lead generation stuff.
Oh, for sure. It makes it, well, like I just said earlier, I'm just basically repeating myself, but for me, it's something I'm able to systematize, and I'm a big systems guy. Like, if it's not in a system, it is never going to be repeated, and it will probably just go off into the ether, and we'll forget about it. But
I won't be seeing you at the county pulling data manually.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, Burton, man, I really, really appreciate you coming on. This is
likewise. Thank you for
super enlightening. I learned some things. I've been using the tool for, like I said, over 6 years now, and I've learned a couple things, and you've reinvigorated me to get out there and start going through some of those filters, pulling some of those levers. So I really appreciate it.
Most definitely. You have a wonderful day. Thanks for having me again.
All right, guys, that's going to do it. Burton, we're going to sign off. Appreciate you very much. And guys, go check out PropStream. Let me throw up this, Burton. I'll go ahead and let you off. I'm going to wrap this up. All right.
Take care, everybody.
Appreciate it, man. All right. So guys, let me throw this up here real quick. So normally we have a link, obviously, with PropStream. We have an affiliate link. I'm not throwing that up here because with that link, days free trial with PropStream, and that's only going to last you 7 days. If you give them a call, if you call at 877-204-9040, that goes directly to their customer service line. All you got to do is mention Sub to Empire. You're going to get it for 30 days. All right, give it a shot for 30 days. See what you think. If If you like it, which I have a sneaky suspicion that you will, then there you go. At least you've got your list pre-built, and you've done that for free. So again, give them a call. That number. What else do I want to tell you here? I think that's going to be just about it. If you are interested in looking into creative finance, go check us out over at Sub2 Empire too. We're doing some good things over there. Sub2empire.com. Otherwise, guys, that's going to do it. Really appreciate you. We will check you guys next week, every Friday, 11 a.m. Central, right here, wherever you found us. We'd appreciate you joining us.